Happy Wealth Wednesday, Victoria. I'm so excited to have you here today to talk about all things coaching, up leveling, and just your story, which is such an inspiration. It's been such a pleasure to become very fast friends, and I'm excited to share your story. So I'd love if you would kick off and just share a little bit of who you are, where you are, and what you're up to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I am super excited to be here. So I'm currently co-founder of Scale, which we are trying to democratize access to world-class tools and resources with one-on-one personalized coaching. In my own career, I was able to break into tech after business school, got a job at Google, Facebook, Uber, Netflix, and that really unlocked for me a whole new world of opportunities and wealth for myself. Being a first generation immigrant, my parents never really were plugged into, they were just trying to make it work, surviving in America. And for me, I went to undergrad and I didn't understand or have access to Silicon Valley or a network and have a network there really. And so it was business school that really helped to propel me kind of into this space, which since has been just an amazing journey of growth and opportunity, amazing people, and wealth building for myself, which is really exciting. And yeah, right now, like that's the main focus of what we're doing at Scale is we want to create more access for people to get that support they need as they're continuing to, level up in their careers. And oftentimes it's mostly women and women of color who have the least amount of access and support to kind of those informal networks and kind of that informal mentorship that happens a lot at work, especially at the more executive levels. And so that's something we're helping to address.
I am so excited about this, and having personally been coached as a friend by you in many different areas. I think both of us have been total buddies for each other, especially in the early 2020 craziness, navigating the world of wealth. I'm so excited to dive into this because, having had that lived experience with you, I'm really excited about what you're building. So first, the question we ask everyone to kind of equalize the stage is, do you remember what your first ever investment was? What got you started?
The one that I can remember, like proactively taking action on, like making the trade in Schwab, was for NVIDIA. And this was because another mentor and friend of mine at Facebook, she was really encouraging me to be more strategic and be more interested in my own wealth and grow my knowledge in the space. And she kept telling me, like, you got to look into Bitcoin, you got to look into these different tech stocks, diversify, look for all the opportunities. And at the time I had a really big challenge with feeling comfortable in that space, right? And so for me, I kind of just took what she said and I was like, okay, well, I trust her. Let me just make this investment. And it ended up paying off really well. And then, that was kind of the first step into me growing my curiosity, my knowledge, and my just comfort level in the space of investing.
It's so true that sometimes you just need that door that opens up the possibility and understanding of like the long-term value you can create by making some like immediate term decisions, which I think plays in so much now into what you're building. So I'd love to know, how and why did you get into your space? Why coaching?
Like I mentioned, business school kind of got me into the world of tech, but I realized very quickly once I was, getting promoted and getting into more senior roles that there were still a lot of areas that I needed to master in order to continue to succeed as an executive, right? In these very dynamic and challenging environments. And I always struggled with anxiety, imposter syndrome, just confidence, being in these spaces and showing up as, with the kind of executive presence that often that space called for. And so when I first experienced coaching, I went to the Hoffman Institute, and it was just very transformative and powerful for me to develop a deeper level of self-awareness and control over my own, emotions, how I thought about things, reframing. And it just really gave me my power back in situations where I was feeling really nervous or anxious or just, having a lot of imposter syndrome. And so once I saw how effective it was for me, I couldn't not try to help others with that, with everything that I had learned. So I began my own journey of coaching other people. And then my co-founder and I, we were friends, and he was a mentor of mine actually. And when he came to me with the idea of scaling it in a more kind of efficient and open way, I got super excited about it. And so now that's what we're building together. And it's really grounded in my own experience, having been coached and seeing how it could, really change and turn how, basically my career and my life around.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's such a powerful thing. And for those of us on the call who may not know, can you describe like what is Hoffman Institute? It obviously sounds like it was really transformational. Like what does that entail?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a big spectrum of coaching. The coaching we do now with Scale is much more on the professional development side. When I first experienced coaching with Hoffman, that was a much more, on the spectrum of like more therapy and introspection. Hoffman is further down on this end, and Scale is much more on the professional development side. But when I first went through coaching with Hoffman, it was really a deep look at all of the patterns that I had that were much more reactive and kind of the default setting that I would go to when I was in moments of anxiousness or stress or panic. And that level of self awareness around those patterns empowered me to be very mindful of when they were coming up in a way that was ineffective for me, right? In terms of how I was showing up as a leader, how I was managing my work, my stress, all of that. And so that was the role that it played. And the way, we got there was really through a combination of like journaling, meditation, coaching in small groups, one-on-one coaching, and really just having that open conversation and being able to confront yourself in those moments of, when you have descended into self-doubt and anxiety, as we all do, and building your power and increasing your toolkit around how to manage that.
I love it. So, with all of that, what role do you play in the wealth space and why is it important?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, now there's just so much opportunity for women to continue to get more opportunities for leadership. And it's hard to break into leadership for women oftentimes because of a lot more of those challenges, like I mentioned, that are more informal mentoring or unconscious biases that we have to overcome. And a lot of that isn't easily addressed in a regular cohort-based learning course on Udemy, right, or Coursera. It requires a little bit more nuanced support and guidance to think through the complexities and figure out the best approach for reframing or how you show up in certain situations. And that's why we are building what we are with Scale, is to really give people that access to that one-on-one support that just generally doesn't exist and has been getting worse with the pandemic, right? Whatever level of informal mentorship there was before in the office, it's almost completely gone now. You can't casually ask, a mentor or friend at the water cooler, hey, like I had this difficult conversation. I felt like I wasn't being respected or I didn't show up the way I wanted to. How might I navigate this? You can't have those conversations easily now. And so having a coach to be there for you, we've seen is really helpful and effective for people.
It's like isolation is that worst
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Absolutely.
Having anyone, and I really love what you're doing. I think we should dive into that a bit more too. Like, I would love to understand what you think has been the most exciting thing you've learned that you'd want others to know. And I'm also really curious about the text-based aspect of it and how you've seen that work for people.
People love having live sessions with their coach, which I think is always going to be irreplaceable, right? That human or as close to human connection as we can get these days via Zoom, that level of connection is always going to be important. However, in addition to that, people today, like we're so asynchronous in the way we work and the way we maintain our relationships with our friends, our families, at work. And so with Scale, we're introducing messaging as a way to make it more accessible for people to get that on-demand help they need from coaches. So for example, if you have difficult conversation coming up and it's tomorrow and you need just some really quick guidance and support on preparing for that, you can message your coach right away and get a response from them in a way that feels, like they're always kind of there for you. And it's not as much of the heavy lift of trying to schedule, find a time, which we all know can get really crazy with people's calendars. So that's one way we're really seeing we're able to help more people with just, a little bit more of a lightweight way to engage with a coach.
I love that. Knowing that we actually have done a lot of texting, even on our portfolios and market conditions, like the value of having a buddy or someone on your team to talk through live action things and strategies is really helpful. So I know I've personally experienced that with you. I'm curious, like in that process of now, coaching hundreds of people in this process and in this way, what you've learned. Like, is there anything unusual, surprising, interesting you'd want to share?
Yeah, I think it's just we knew that people would be interested in having the option to message with their coach, but I think we couldn't even prepare ourselves with how open and direct and raw people can be in messaging. They, really, I think today messaging is such a integral part of everyone's lives that being, talking about sensitive subjects in messaging were things that, you know, people might in the past not have felt like, oh, I need to write like a formal email about this. Today, messaging is, just opening up these doors of really open communication. And I think that's really exciting. We also see that having some structure around the coaching is very effective. So I believe this is, what you guys do with Eve as well, is like when there is like a structure around the information and content that you're delivering that helps support people with a foundation from which they can then dig in and ask questions and like kind of dive deeper into their specific and unique situation. And so for every guided sprint that we offer, we really provide what we call our little skill loop of learning, practice, and feedback. So you're always given content where you can really, just absorb and learn some of the best in class concepts. Then you move into practice, which are like about 25 exercises that help you apply those concepts to your unique situation so that it's actually really relevant and specific to you. And then the feedback part is where the magic happens and the coach comes in and has all this great context from you that you've shared in your exercises and can really start to dive in and help you assess exactly what areas are the biggest opportunities of growth for you. And so we've just seen that model is really effective for people to experience transformation that they need to get towards the outcome they're working towards.
And I'm curious, is there a person or a company that's inspiring you in the space and why? Would love to do a shout out and share resources that people should be checking out right now.
Yeah, I think this is from a personal level, I would say my friend Jackie Bona, who you also know, who's building in Web3 and launching Valora, like that's super exciting just to see her continue to create access for people globally through, crypto, Web3, and just seeing her as my friend move into such an executive leadership role and crush it is really awesome to see at a personal level. In terms of other resources, we are partnering with Career Karma as well. Ruben Harris is fantastic for just creating more access to people to break into tech, which again has been such an incredible wealth creator for everyone. And we really just believe in community. So we're partnering a lot with different groups like On Deck, Reforge, Products by Women, because we know that by being there for the community and helping to bring people together, that's really a rich place for more ideas, more support to be had. And we also actually just launched a product coaches campaign to really help spotlight the best product coaches that are out there. Because, really shining the light and bringing more awareness to people is a great way to help them continue to grow. And that's something that we care a lot about at Scale as well.
I love that. And so what advice would you give to somebody getting started in their coaching journey, especially?
Yeah, I think, there's always room to grow, I think is something important to remember, and staying open to finding the right mentors and coaches in your life who really can be there for you and understand where you're at, have either some sort of shared experience or similar kind of path that you really respect and want to follow is great to find early on, just because it can help you with overcoming a lot of areas where you don't have to make the mistakes yourself. You can get that support from someone else and hopefully help accelerate your journey. And so I always really advocate for an ongoing mindset of growth and always being open to connections, whether that's with other people that are your peers or other people in different industries. You just never quite know who you might meet or what might come from that meeting. So that's something I always advise people to do is like be open to meeting great people. And the more open-minded and growth-minded you are, the more opportunities will end up coming to you.
How do we follow you personally, your journey as a founder, and then Scale? How can we follow what's happening at Scale?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can follow us on LinkedIn at Scale Hire. And I'm also on LinkedIn sharing tips for your personal and professional growth. And um, you can also find us on Twitter at Scale Hire and then scalehire.com. So all of those places we are active and always trying to create value and bring in more members of the community together. So hopefully we'll see you there.